Hello guys, welcome to 10 Pulse. Sorry for the delay, but today we've got something special for you. Let's talk about the secret behind living texture in classical art. Stay always Pulse. Why does a 500-year-old painting have better skin texture than your brand new 4K camera? And have you ever looked at a painting and just sworn the fabric was soft enough to touch? Or that the fruit on the table looks so juicy you could almost taste it? Yeah, classical artists weren't just painting. They were basically cheating reality. Today, we're decoding the secrets behind how they made textures feel so incredibly alive. Here's the thing nobody really tells you in art school. When you see texture in a classical painting, you're not actually seeing a perfect one-to-one copy of that texture. You're seeing an artist masterfully whispering into your brain, "Hey, imagine touching this." They weren't zooming in with a 300 brush Photoshop pack. They were building textures the way a chef builds flavor, layer by layer. They treated every single surface like it had its own personality. Velvet, it was the dramatic diva of the canvas. Marble, the timeless, stoic philosopher. Skin was the soft but complicated human being. And metal? Well, that was the guy flexing at the gym. Texture wasn't just visual, it was emotional branding. So how did they do it? The first secret is that artists didn't paint texture, they suggested it. This is where the magic of microstrokes comes in. If you get super close to a Rembrandt or a Vermeer, you'll see what looks like controlled chaos. Just a bunch of tiny, seemingly random dabs and lines of paint. But when you step back, your brain stitches all that information together, and suddenly that chaos transforms into gleaming armor, rough stone, or the softest velvet. It's an optical illusion. The artists use these tiny directional strokes to fake pores, the weave of fabric, or the grain of wood. It's a kind of controlled messiness that tricks your eye into filling in the blanks. Now, let's talk velvet. Velvet in a classical painting doesn't just sit there quietly. It shows up like a superstar entering a room. It's all about deep, dark shadows and sudden, brilliant highlights. There's zero subtlety, it's pure drama. Artists would literally exaggerate how velvet absorbs and reflects light, so your brain immediately goes, "Oh yeah, that's definitely velvet." They overperformed reality, which was basically the entire job description of a classical painter. They knew exactly how to manipulate light and shadow to create the feeling of a texture without painting every single thread. And what about still life painters? Those guys were basically running a visual farmer's market hustle. They made fruit look shiny, but not too shiny. Soft, but not mushy. Colorful, but not like someone just cranked the saturation to the max. They were painting the ideal version of fruit, the kind your brain wishes it had seen in real life. Here's a clever little trick they used. They place a tiny, sharp dot of white paint, a highlight, right at the edge of a grape or an apple, exactly where your brain expects to see moisture. The result? Instant juice. 0 calories. Again, it's not about copying reality. It's about understanding perception and giving your brain the exact cues it needs. But skin is where classical artists flexed the hardest. This is where they really showed off. They used a technique called glazing, which involves layering super thin, transparent films of color, one on top of the other. They would build up these layers until the skin almost seemed to glow from within, like it had its own internal Wi-Fi signal. And the funniest part is, they didn't paint individual pores. They didn't paint every tiny hair. They didn't paint real skin. They painted something much better. Better than real skin. It was smooth enough to look angelic and divine, but just irregular enough with subtle color shifts to feel human and alive. That's the magic sweet spot. They knew texture wasn't just about what you see, but what you feel. A rough, textured surface feels dramatic and intense. A smooth, flawless surface feels calm, pure, and even royal. Your brain tries to touch what it sees, and that's what makes the painting feel so real. And here come the dirty tricks of the masters. These artists were absolute gremlins when it came to achieving the right effect. Did you know some of them would literally scratch into the wet paint with their fingernails or the back of their brush to create the texture of hair or tree bark? They use all sorts of unconventional methods like scumbling, which is scrubbing a dry brush over the surface, or using thick, chunky paint called impasto. Think of all these techniques as visual seasoning. A little dash of this, a little smear of that, all to build up a convincing illusion. Ultimately, this all leads to one big idea. Texture was used to tell a story. It was basically the visual gossip of the art world. The type of fabric someone wore told you about their wealth and social class. Velvet meant rich, rough linen meant poor. The texture of a person's skin could reveal their character. Wrinkles suggested a life of wisdom and experience, while soft, smooth skin was a symbol of purity and youth. The texture of the environment could set the entire mood of the scene. It was a powerful tool for symbolism and narrative. And believe it or not, modern artists still use these exact same tricks. All those texture rules from the old masters are alive and well today. The only difference is that your favorite digital illustrator is probably using a texture brush in Procreate instead of a goat hair brush and oil paint. The principles of suggesting texture, using light and telling a story through surfaces are timeless. So at the end of the day, texture isn't just a detail, it's an attitude. Every master painter had their own texture signature. Kind of like a fingerprint, but way sassier. So the next time you're in a museum and you're looking at an old painting, don't just admire it from afar. Get a little closer. Look at the brush strokes. See how the light catches the layers of paint. Touch it with your eyes, because that is where the real magic happens. Thanks so much for watching. If you found this interesting, don't forget to like and subscribe for more deep dives into the art world. See you in the next one.